Welcome to EDU 3339, Chapter 7. So our goal through this instructional video is how do I teach early number concepts in number sense to my students? I wanted to start with this quote. I'll let you read it. I love the last part. No substitute exists for a skillful teaching environment that fosters curiosity, exploration, and all curriculums. You in my fair mathematics. The big ideas for this chapter basically are these three things. Counting tells how many things in a set. Now, many children at a young age can count, starting either with one or with another number, and they may even skip a number. But what they're really not doing is assigning value to that number. So they might be reciting numbers much like they would recite their ABCs, but they don't realize that each number represents a value. The second big idea is that numbers are related to each other through a variety of relationships. That could be through one more, one less, two more, two less. Certain numbers might add up to the same number. There's a lot of relationships we must look at when dealing with numbers. The third big idea is that number concepts are intimately tied to the world around us. It's very important that you point out how math is used in the real world to your students. So here are some important relationships for our children to know. Recognition of pattern sets. So I'm going to show you some pictures of those. 1 and 2 more or less of a number. So you have the number 5, what's 1 more, 6, or 2 more, 7, or even less. So you're really going to have to know how to count forwards and backwards, either with some manipulatives or with a number line. Using the anchor numbers of 5 and 10. So being able to start from 5 or start from 10 or visualize those. And the part-whole relationships, which leads us ultimately to our operations, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So here are some examples of the recognition of the pattern sets. So we have spatial relationships. So when we see dots arranged like the one on the left, our brain usually sees 5. And that's what we want children to see. We want them to see a certain type of spatial relationship between numbers. Now we can move those around. It doesn't matter that they're moved around. The value stays the same, but we do want them to recognize the common ones. In the one in the middle, of course, we have 3 and 3. So what does that tell us about the dots on the card? Yes, there are 6. And then look at the one on the right. We can see that there are 8 because there's a row of 4 and another row of 4. But look at the one down there. So really that's telling us we have 8 and 1 more, so that must mean 9. So spatial relationships are very important. Then we have our 1 and 2 more or less, and you can see from this kind of how that works. So 2 more than 6 would be 8, 1 less than 7 is 6, and so on. So they need to be able to do this with counters, with number lines, and then eventually just learning it. Anchor numbers. Now what you see, this picture here, is called a tens frame. Tens frame is very, very common and very useful in the primary classroom. So a tens frame is set up so that there are 5 spaces on the top and 5 spaces on the bottom. And then you use chips or dots or beans or whatever to put in those spaces to represent a number. So that children know if that top row is filled, there's automatically 5. So they could look at this card and not have to count from the beginning 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But in fact, they could start at 5 because they know the top is filled, and then start with 6, 7, 8 and know that that's 8. Or they could see the tens frame as 10, but it's 2 less than 10, so count backwards 9, 8. So tens frames are very important to the conceptual understanding of numbers.
And now we look at part, whole. This particular picture reminds me of dominoes, and dominoes can really be used to show part, whole. Over on the left we have 6 dots, and on the right there's 3. There's a lot you can do with this. You can put them together. You can show how, when they are put together, it makes 9. 6 plus 3 is 9. 3 plus 6 is 9. Part of 9 is 6. Part of 9 is 3. There are a lot of different part, wholes you can show with a domino or similar pictures such as dot cards.
So early counting, basically, counting the sequence of number words as rote. I told you that earlier. You know, they can just say any number going up, but don't necessarily understand the value. Because the meaning attached to the counting is the conceptual idea. So children learn how to count before they understand that the last count word they say indicates the amount. So if I have 6 objects, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, touching each one, and the last number I say indicates how many is in that set. I found for you on the internet, doing some exploring, this particular activity. It's called Dot Card and 10 Frame Activities from the Winnipeg School Division, 2005-2006. It was in a large PDF, but wow, is it power-packed with games and activities to do with students with dot cards and tens frames. So I actually uploaded it to the portal page on week 3 for you to download and use. So I'd go ahead and save it on your computer. It'll give you some great ideas. So use these ideas of the manipulatives, the drawing, the dot cards, the tens frames to help children develop early number concepts and number sense. Also on our week 3 page, I have included 3 videos that you can watch that I think will be very important for you to see what's going on in a classroom. So please watch those and pay close attention to the way the teachers help develop the number concepts and number sense.